Okay, so today we are writing linear equations in standard form. So this is what standard form is. It goes ax plus by equals c, and then this is the important part to remember. A and b are not 0, and they cannot be fractions. That also includes decimals. They cannot be fractions or decimals. I put that in there because some kids are like, oh, I can't write 1/2, but I can write 0.5. Haha, that's the same thing. Fraction, decimal are the same thing. So standard form has no fractions or decimals, and you cannot have 0 for x or y. That would not be in standard form. Okay, so first problem, we're going to look at equivalent equations. So think about equivalent fractions. It's very similar. Like, what would be an equivalent fraction to 3/4? 6/8. So we're going to do kind of similar thing with equations. We're going to make equivalent equations. So write two equations in standard form that are equivalent to 2x minus 6y equals 4. So first thing, is this in standard form correctly? Does it go x, y, number? Are there any fractions or zeros or decimals? No. Okay. So now to write an equivalent equation in standard form, I'm going to choose to multiply instead of divide. Or you could divide by one thing and still keep it in standard. So the easiest thing is just to take everything times 2 and everything times 3. Does that make sense? So I'm going to create two different equations. I'm going to take everything times 2, and I'm going to take everything times 3. So if I take everything times 2, I'm going to have 4x minus 12y equals 8. That's an equivalent equation. And everything times 3, I would have 6x minus 18y equals 12. So what this means is if I were to tell you to plug in like x equals 5 and solve for y, you should get the same answer for y in all three of these equations. You should come out with equal answers because they're equivalent. Just like when you divide 3 divided by 4, you get 0.75. And if you divide 6 divided by 8, you still get 0.75, even though they're different numbers because they're equivalent. Okay, so I want you to try the next one. So you're going to write two equations in standard form that are equivalent to x minus y equals 3. And this is obviously something that you guys can have multiple answers. Like everybody in here could come up with different answers. Okay, Jay, can you share one of your answers?
2x minus 2y equals 6.
Okay. Keaton, can you share one?
3x minus 3y equals 9.
Anybody have a different one? Everybody do 2 and 3? Go ahead.
400x minus 400y equals 1200.
I knew someone was
Well, that also works. Okay. All right. The next one, write an equation in standard form of the line shown. Okay, so we have a graph to look at, and we're going to write an equation in standard form. So we still need to find the things that we normally have to find, like slope and intercept. Okay, so I would just do rise over run to get my slope. So m equals, what's my rise over run?
-3. Oh, 3 over -1.
Either 3 over -1 or -3 over 1. It doesn't matter. You'll get the same answer, right? So I could just put my m as -3. And then can you determine your intercept? You could probably count up on your graph and determine it. If I know my slope is -3, so if I have to go up to get to like up here on my graph, if I continue this, I would need to go in what direction? If I go up, I'm gonna have to go what? Left. So I'm gonna go up 3, left 1. So up 3 points would be right here, left 1 would be right here. And what point would that be? 4. So my B is 4. To me, that's easier because it's just right off of our graph than having to do a whole other equation to solve for B. Okay, so I'm gonna write this in slope-intercept form to start off with. So y equals 3x plus 4.
Negative.
Yeah, sorry, negative 3x plus 4. And then what I need to do to get it into standard form is leave the 4 there, and I just need to add 3x over to the front. So then I'm going to have 3x plus y, because that's a positive y, equals 4. And that would be in standard form. Okay, so on the next problem, I don't have a graph to look at, so I'm going to have to determine B in a different way. But I first need to find the slope. So my M, what formula that all of you should have memorized? Slope formula. So we're going to do negative 3 minus negative 1 over 2 minus 3. So I'm going to end up with negative 2 over negative 1, which equals positive 2. Okay, I cannot determine B from just looking at this. I have to calculate it. So I have two choices. I can plug in an X, a Y, and an M and find B, or I can do point slope. I can do either one. Will get me the answer. Any preference?
Why is it supposed to be?
So I could either, so let's say I'm going to work with this coordinate. I could either go like negative 1 equals 2 parentheses 3 plus B and solve. Or I can do this. I can do y minus negative 1 equals 2 parentheses x minus 3 and solve. I can do either one. I feel like the slope, point slope form will get you to your equation faster, but neither would be wrong. So this would be y plus 1 equals 2x minus 6. And then I would have two things I would need to move.
Would you subtract 1?
So I need to subtract 1. So y equals 2x minus 7. And then I need to move my x. So negative 2x plus y equals negative 7. Whereas here, I would solve for b. And then I would still have to set up my equation. Like I wouldn't be done at that point. So in my opinion, point slope probably is faster. Okay, I want you guys to try the next one. So you're gonna go this probably through the same exact steps. Find the slope, find the intercept, write the equation. Okay. Can somebody share what they got for their slope? Okay, I agree. M equals -2. And then, did you guys do point slope then? So if I'm going to choose these because they're positive. So y minus 2 equals -2 parentheses x minus 2. So then I have y minus 2 equals -2x plus 4. I would add 2. So y equals -2x plus 6, and then I have to add 2x. So I get 2x plus y equals 6. Hopefully you got that. Okay. All right, write an equation in standard form for the red line. So what kind of equation does a vertical line have to be? What's the slope? Undefined. Slope is undefined. Doesn't have an intercept. How do you write an equation for a vertical line? You do. Is it x or y?
X.
It's x. So this equation would be x equals what?
4.
4. And then that's all you can do. Okay, so for the next one, what would the equation be for the blue line?
Y equals -4.
Not -4. Yes, -4. I'm sorry. Y equals -4. And what's the slope for that line?
0.
0. Yep, it doesn't ask for that, but slope of a horizontal line is 0. Okay, find the missing coefficient in the equation of the line shown. Write the completed equation. So here we have A is missing, but I know the rest of the equation. So how do you think I could solve for A?
Find the slope.
Well, the slope would have to be the opposite of what we find.
Oh.
You could do that, I guess. I've never done it like that. I would choose to plug in this coordinate and solve for A. So I'm going to do A times -1, because that's x, plus 3 times y, which is 0, equals 2. So anything times 0 is going to be 0, so that's going to knock out. And I'm going to have -1a equals 2. And then what would I do? Divide by -1. So a equals -2. Okay. So if we do that again, find the missing coefficient in the equation of the line that passes through the given point. Write the completed equation. So here I'm missing b, but I know a coordinate. So I'm going to plug in my coordinate and solve for b. So I go through and multiply across and do my distributive properties. So 4 plus 1b equals 7. And then I would subtract 4. So 1b equals 3. And then the second part of the instructions say write the completed equation. So my completed equation would be -4x plus 3y equals 7. Okay, I want you to try that next one, and then we'll do the last one together. Everybody get it? Okay, so first of all, what did you get for A? -7. So then my equation would be -7x plus y equals -3. Good? Okay, so let's look at the last question. Your class is taking a trip to a Mizzou basketball game. You can travel in small and large vans. A small van holds 8 people and a large van holds 12 people. Your class could fill 15 small vans and 2 large vans. Write an equation in standard form that models the possible combination of small vans and large vans that your class could fill. So, what would be the first piece of information that you need to figure out?
How many people would be in each van?
Okay, so we have a large van is 12 and a small van is 8. What else do we need to figure out?
How many people got in total?
How many people you have in your class, right? So if your group can fill 15 small vans, how many people is that? 120. And then if your group also fills 2 large vans at the same time, how many people? 24. So you have how many people in your class? 144 people. Okay, so then we just need to write an equation with all the combinations you could have. You could use X and Y, or you could use like S and L for small and large. What number would go with small? 8. So if we did 8S plus what number goes with large? 12L, or you can do whatever you want variable wise, equals how many people? 144. So this would be how you would figure out combinations. Obviously, you would have to know one of those variables to solve for the other variable. So like if I were trying to set up this trip, I would have to go talk to our transportation department, and they could tell me, like, by the way, we only have 5 small vans available that day. Well, then I would have to plug in 5 for S, and then that would tell me how many large vans I would have to ask for. Does that make sense? Okay. So your assignment is a textbook assignment over 5.4.